Hi, everyone. I'm putting out this video in response to a video that was done today by Chasing Indy. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of points regarding that video. The first point I wanted to make is that you're definitely not the first person that mentioned an arrow. An arrow being the blaze is really popular because of that picture that you had shown. I think it was on page 99 of the arrow pointing down. It kind of looks like a hand pointing into the canyon. In fact, I used that same image on my video in 2018 regarding my solution at the ski resort on Cody Road. I also discussed the Indian symbols in a couple of my videos since last year when I put out our Solved by the Medicine Wheel. And I wanted to point out a couple things that I noticed and why I didn't choose the arrow. I considered it, but here's the deal. If Forrest had an arrow pointing to the chest as the blaze, to me, it would make it too obvious that so obvious that somebody who wasn't a searcher might look at it and it's going to immediately make them wonder what that arrow is pointing at. Okay. So I don't think that Forrest would do something like that because he said that if you found, I'm pretty sure he said that if you're at the blaze, the physical blaze, you're within 12 feet of the treasure chest. So I just discounted the arrow mainly for that reason. Instead, and this is the card that I showed in my videos on the bottom here, I chose the medicine man's eye because it stands for wise and watchful. Now, remember, my thought was all based around the medicine wheel. When you go on a vision quest, we just use the word vision, which is related to eyes, right? But after a vision quest, you seek out a medicine man. So it would make sense that if we're leaving the wheel and going to the chest, we're going to seek out the medicine man's eye. It just seems to fit the entire theme. The other thing he says in the poem, it says, if you've been wise and found the blaze. So if you've been wise, well, this symbol means wise. And if it's also the blaze, and in our case, the sun is the initial blaze that leads you down to the physical blaze. So it's leading you to, and it's telling you, look quickly down from the eye. Okay. So it fits in the poem because the poem is saying, this happened where he says, take the chest and go in peace, happens right after he's talking about tarry scant with marble gaze. You gaze with your eyes. So to me, this whole thing fit the theme to that more than an arrow. And I'm not saying you're wrong. It could certainly be an arrow. It definitely kind of makes sense because all of them are Native American symbols. All right, which is how I ended up here in the first place. But I didn't choose it for that reason. And there's the other arrows you're talking about. This means friendship. This means protection. And here's another problem, though. You said that a down arrow is peace, and everything I find contradicts that. Here's two different sites. It's a broken arrow that means peace. And it kind of makes sense because you broke an arrow, you're not fighting. And that kind of again fits in the theme of the wheel because the wheel, medicine wheel itself, is a place of peace. This is described in the kiosks on site, right? So it's an area of peace where even the warring tribes would not fight each other. So the whole thing with the eye and even the arrow kind of fits that narrative, right? The problem is a lot of these symbols, like I said, in some places you're going to find out that they deviate. They're not all exactly the same. I mean, you said a down arrow meant peace. What you should do when you're investigating stuff like that is always look for more than one place to confirm what your thought is. You can't just go on the first thing you see because you got to back it up with additional places. So I found two right off the bat. Like I said, I found this one just now that shows the broken arrow. But down here, you can see this is an arrowhead pointing at the tail. In other words, it's a broken arrow. It's a piece of symbol. And that I found it in at least three places. All right. So I did mention it, but again, I didn't use the arrow. And I want you to be sure when I commented on your video, I'm not saying that you're wrong. Where I think you're wrong is that you're misleading people by coming out and saying that you confirmed the blaze. You didn't confirm anything. Neither am I confirming anything here. The fact of the matter is, none of us, except for Forrest Fenn, who's dead, could confirm anything. At this point, even Jack can't confirm anything. until he gives out his solve. But even then, who's to say Jack isn't lying? Forrest ain't around anymore to contradict what Jack says. So unfortunately, where we are in the chase right now is nobody could confirm anything. So your video is misleading people, not in the fact that the blaze is not an arrow, but because of the fact that you're telling people that is what it is, it's confirmed. No, that's like me coming out and saying, I confirmed it's at the medicine wheel. No, I can't confirm that. I did my best to come up with the best solution that fits the poem. And that gets to another point. You know, Forrest always laughed and said, people are running around looking for a blaze. The blaze is not going to help you. You have to be in the right spot for the blaze to even work. So if you're going to put out anything, why not put out an entire solution that encompasses everything in one solid thought? Like in my video, everything is all based around the most spiritual church in the mountains for the native Indians, and everything is based around that wheel. The chest is not at the wheel, but Forrest is telling you to use the wheel because the cairns that represent the stars in the sky are forming radials that lead you to the place where warm water salt, and to the place where you put in, and to the place where the physical place is. But all of it works with just the poem. It doesn't use any images, which the problem with using images is it's totally speculative. I mean, I could show 10 people the same image and not everybody's going to see the same thing. So there could be hints in the images, but I certainly wouldn't rely on it. I would always go back to the poem and say, how can we verify this with the poem itself? If it turns out to be in the thrill of the chase a hint, that's fine, but it shouldn't be required. And I just don't see any place in the poem that discusses an arrow. I mean, think about it. You said the go in peace means to go into an arrow. So it's pointing. But that doesn't make sense because the poem said, if you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down your quest to cease. He doesn't say anything at that point about going in peace until you already have the treasure chest. So why would I take the treasure chest and then look for an arrow? That doesn't make any sense because if I've been wise and found the blaze, I'm going to look down from the blaze and see the chest. So I've already passed the point of where I found the blaze by the time it mentions peace. But neither one of us, neither you nor I nor anybody out there, is going to come out with any confirmation. The only one who could confirm it is Forrest, and he's dead. So the best you could do is just put a solve out there, and that's it. And also, how would that blaze fit in with a solve where everything is working as one cohesive unit? You've never done that. You've never given us a solve that really wraps everything up. You're coming out with bits and pieces and discussing things that Jack said, which is all speculative, and none of it can be proven. We don't know whether Jack is trustworthy or not. So the only thing we have is the poem. I would never base a solution on what Jack is saying because Jack didn't even give out a solve. I don't see how that makes sense. So, but anyway, it was a good video talking about the fact that it actually helps me make my solve look better because you're and other people are starting to think that the blaze has something to do with Native American symbols. That's not a new thought. But the difference is that it fits as a cohesive unit in my solve. My whole entire solution is based on Native Americans. I'm trying to read the entire poem as a story and putting everything together in a cohesive manner. And I don't think running around listening to Jack and trying to come up with which symbol the blazes is going to be helpful to anybody unless they know where the treasure chest is. Everybody have a great week, and I hope you had a great 4th of July and still got 10 fingers. And have a good day. Peace.